right, here we are, September, MacAdmin Monthly. Welcome, everybody. We have a good crowd today, probably because there was an Apple event today. And that's probably the thing we all want to talk about, I would guess. Before we get to that, no, I think everyone good? Questions before we get started? We love your questions. We love hearing the things you're struggling with. No. So what do we want to talk about at the Apple event today? There's a bunch of people sitting here with Mac computers, and Macs weren't mentioned at this keynote at all, which, it was an iPhone event, in all fairness. I didn't expect too much. We did find out the High Sierra drop date, which is the 25th. That's
not at the keynote.
At the keynote, we didn't find out. It's on Apple's site. So now we know we have 2 weeks, right? Is that 2 weeks away? Where are we today? The 12th, roughly 2 weeks away. So start testing now, I guess. Although the Apple site still has beta 9. We didn't actually see new seeds. We didn't see a GM. Hopefully that's what we're going to see over the next few weeks. Thoughts? Anyone care to?
I'm just happy that Graham Gilbert got the blog posting machine whippersnapper crank turned and is talking about whitelisting kernel extensions. There's a beta for using Imager with APFS containers.
Yeah, nice.
So that as a workflow perspective, he's starting the quality assurance process essentially of, okay, I know that this works more than 0 times. You folks let me know feedback as well, kick the tires on it. Considering we've moved almost entirely to target disk mode imaging and Imager. So yeah, that's important for us to then say, oh, okay, how are we going to handle firmware? All those other questions.
Yeah.
We still don't have working institutional file vault because Apple just forgot that was a thing, I guess,
well,
on APFS. So we're just going to say, you know what, APFS, let's sit that out for a little while. And so we need to test the seeds of Monkey, the pre-release of that, for StartOS install and specifically leave that off as that optional flag still exists, and really scramble once the GM is available to make sure that that flag still works.
Were you using institutional file vault?
It was great because there was actually a passcode on it. So it was like a 2 thing. You needed to have it physically present, and you needed the key. So
I mean, we've frowned
nobody
on that.
wanted to ever use it or touch it ever.
Well, we've frowned on that for a very long time. And you know why, and whatever. So
as legacy hardware goes, it's one of those things that I was more than joyful to inherit. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Graham Gilbert, he also has Crypt, of course, that will help people through that. We have Cauliflower Vest, which will also help you through that sort of thing. What else did I hear you say in that?
The whole APFS turn up is something that we'll just say, you first.
Yeah.
World at large.
We've been testing it, and we are on the cusp, finally, of releasing our tool that does the target disk mode imaging. And the only trick that we've been talking about to help stave off the MDM revolution is that we are going to be dropping the plist on disk that sort of pre-fills team IDs to stop scale.
That was a SQL DB.
There's a plist and there's a SQL DB. I think you can use either of them, and we're just dropping the plist from what I remember.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I forget which one we chose, because I think I said the same thing. I said I thought it ignored the plist in one of the betas and just used the database, but apparently just dropping the plist
I didn't hear that it was non-interactive at all. You can actually feed it an input file.
I don't know about an input file, but if you just drop this plist on disk,
to disk,
yeah, in the right place. I mean, obviously it has to be there, like right from the get-go, right? Because then it's zip protected. Once you image, once you spray it onto the disk, you're done.
Right. Okay. Just because Graham is doing manual interaction in an automated workflow, or like simulating a manual interaction in an automated workflow as part of his blog post.
Oh, gotcha.
So that would probably been good news for him.
Yeah. So as we come down to the wire now, that we know we're 2 weeks away from High Sierra. Any other big blockers from MacAdmins? Any other? I mean, APFS, I think as we've been talking about it, we're going to roll with it because it seems like that's what Apple wants, and that's probably the path that they've been testing. I don't think so. StartOS install still in beta 9 looks like it respects the -- APFS no or without APFS
No conversion
flag.
or something.
Yeah, no convert or something. So it's like we could do that. I don't think we're going to. We've never been an official iMac shop, so I'm sure we have a few, and there are probably a few Fusion drives out there, but it's really not the use case that we're accounting for, and we just kind of don't care. And the installer won't upgrade them, and they'll get upgraded whenever Apple decides, oh, Fusion disks should get upgraded now.
We're assuming every point release are going to be knocking on the door. Like, hey, you're going to convert now as part of this restart. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I don't think we've run into many other things that we haven't been able to get around. Like, you still do get that little fun pop-up the first time you boot, like, welcome to High Sierra, like, check out what's new. Like, all right, we don't care.
Yeah, the commerce stuff.
Yeah. Like, see what's new in High Sierra. Oh, all right. It used to be, right, we used to have a problem with Apple repopulating the dock. And that just annoyed our users because, like, before you know it, on a stock Mac, right, like, and every point release they would repopulate with maps and like everything. It's like we don't care, right?
I think it just came out and always have documents, so I never noticed it. So I never.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe they got fixed. I actually don't remember.
What you can't see, you can't complain about.
Exactly. So, anybody, High Sierra rollout plans? How quickly?
Oh, waiting for 0.1 at least.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not waiting. I just need tools.
So how are your users admin?
Mostly, yeah.
So they're gonna get a app store is gonna put a little notification saying, hey, you should upgrade to 10.13.
Yeah.
How are you going to stop them from doing that?
Well, not necessarily. I'm going to be at least telling them that my support will be limited if they choose to do that themselves.
Right.
But, you know, from our recommendation.
Yeah.
So
I just raised an Alliance ticket internally asking, hey, so how do I stop major OS updates?
Yep.
Without blocking everything.
Yeah.
Because the current solution, if I read the documentations correctly, is you can say block App Store updates, or only allow App Store updates, which means that minor OS releases and updates to applications you already have installed, basically you can only see the updates pane of the App Store, and that's it, which is awful because the App Store will, this happened with 10.9 to 10.10, we had the same thing, because 10.10 wasn't going to work for us, and if you install it, your machine would break and not work with our tools, so we'd have to go back to 10.9.
Right.
So we had this, let's do the disable, only allow updates. But then Apple kindly sent out a notification to everyone saying, hey, please install 10.10.
Mm.
You think of the App Store.
Of course
the App Store was like, I can't do that because, anyway, so it's
It's like a pain.
So yeah.
yeah. So
our guess is if we really have to stop people from installing, which I don't think we will, but if we do, we just block the OS installer with Santa.
Yeah.
After they've downloaded 6 gigs. So
yeah. It sounds funny, but it's at least more granular than blocking the entire App Store.
It's also a moving target.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a
Build
moving
those
target.
things in.
Well, you just block the Apple certificate.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong with that? So yeah, that again, no real announcement today except the date is now official, which I mean, it's not far off from what we expected, I guess. So there you have it. All right, who's excited about iPhones? Really?
I'm excited. I'm definitely excited, but it's not enough for me to
Really?
just start writing a check.
It's the future of smartphones. Were you not listening?
Everything was amazing, and it's just like once you do it this way, you're gonna think it was the best way to do it.
Well,
I actually am
The
excited
bottom
about
line
it.
is so-
I don't know.
sure. Look, it's exciting technology and whatnot, but not enough for me to want to buy it immediately. I try to let the market iron out any bugs, any creases.
I'm having someone at Google buy it for me immediately.
The-
I mean, I'm buying it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
If someone bought it for me, I wouldn't complain.
The
um,
iPhone X is the best looking Samsung phone I've seen.
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of iPad-y how much AR focus there is, no matter how great AR demos.
I have
It's
to admit.
iPad, it's this magical surface that everyone will want to use. Every children will immediately adopt a completely glass screen for a keyboard and do all of their work on it. And it's like, yeah, that could totally happen. It's true. This platform could get all this software and workflow enhancements that will actually make it a viable thing. But AR is not necessarily what makes you need a cell phone. You need a cell phone because you need a cell phone. Phone.
That
Pocket
you need a pocket
It's like
computer.
air quotes GM, you know?
Yeah. Wow, I'm not the Apple cheerleader in this group. What's going on? Like,
I just know that I'm not going to get it because I have the 7. So
So maybe you just salty about it.
that's why you need kids. I can just give this to one of my kids.
I'm an
I have a
Android
father.
phone user, and the iPhone 10 looks nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm really
Like Face ID is kind of intriguing to me, but also on the flip side, my face is literally the most public thing about me.
Yeah. Well, that's why, you know, all the details got leaked, but I really wanted to hear the story and the journey and the transition, and that was the most interesting thing to me. Like, the Face ID unlock got leaked, but I really wanted to hear, well, this is how we made it secure, because Samsung has just gotten
Samsung
beaten
is
to
terrible,
shreds
which is the problem.
both times that they've tried Face ID, right? You could just go on Facebook, here you go, hold it up to the phone and have it unlock. I mean, Apple addressed that in the keynote with those creepy masks that they showed. They were really creepy, but, you know, I think they gave a good demo.
iPhone has no name.
They gave a good demo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they can pull it off. And the nice thing is, you know, there's always the, you know, passcode fallback. So like if you really wanted to, you could turn it off. And they said if your eyes are closed, it won't unlock. So if you're under duress or something, or sleeping, I don't know.
I assume, I can only assume that Apple security engineers who were pretty good have thought through most of the hot takes that are showing up on Twitter right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I assume that like there's
vetting the hot takes.
Yeah, I'm sure they've already been like, I thought that, it's fine. But also like the whole using the face seems kind of awkward. Whatever. But like the fingerprint is good.
The fingerprint's great.
Like with the Apple ID or the Apple Pay thing, you know, with your iPhone, if you take it out of your pocket with your thumb on the fingerprint, it's unlocked and ready to pay. Where this is like press the button, look at it, and then it's like
a little awkward.
That's
I'm like,
that's like Phil Schiller when he was talking about the Plus models, and he's like, reachability. Remember, you double tap and the thing, like, what an elegant solution. No, it's a terrible solution. It's awful. So yeah, certain things can get oversold. There's no doubt about that. But
Face ID seems like it's like with the 30,000 dots or whatever the IR stuff. That's pretty well thought through, and not just easily tricked by a 2D.
Image.
Yeah.
You know, we're like I print your face on a piece of paper and sort of curve it. That probably won't work either. But
well,
on the flip side, I mean, we live in a world with high-end, 3D scanning and 3D printing. So, and your face is right there in front of everybody.
I don't know. I think they tried to address that, and I also agree with you that like they're not going to get Samsunged on this. They're not going to release something that a week later, right? Someone goes, "Oh, like I just made a Play-Doh model of a face," and right, like
I don't like. You have a lot of faith. Like the initial release.
I think they'll have more false
release of the fingerprint technology was crap.
It
was easy to spoof.
Oh, the gummy bear attack.
The gummy bear attack, and these are all things they claimed they had. Like, oh, you can't do this.
Yeah.
No, oh, yeah, but you can. Like, yes, they may have done a fantastic job with this. They also may have done a crappy job with it, and they would make the same announcement either way.
Oh, totally.
I'm waiting for somebody who knows about security, who doesn't have an Apple badge, to tell me whether this is good or not.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I want to see people attack it and beat it up a bit. And
I'm not sure. Honestly, I kind of agree with Clay. I kind of feel like looking at my phone, presenting my face to the phone is not part of my workflow. Like touching
at some point it is.
Sure.
right? Like at some
You're looking
point,
at this
like you're
in
taking it
class all
out,
the time.
and
I
even
guess
if
that's
it's
true. I
down
mean, that may be
here,
the
like
answer.
you're looking at it. It has to see your
Yeah,
face.
the answer may be to use it in any way. I may end up looking at it in a way that would unlock it, and that's probably true.
Right, I agree with you. It needs to unlock from like this angle underneath me. I don't expect to take it out of my pocket and have to go like,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
it needs
like,
to unlock in a completely dark
there's a
room.
much better angle for your chin.
well, yeah, that's true too. I take all my selfies like,
No,
I
that's
want-
terrible. With like
Yeah.
double chin.
I want it to only unlock if I'm making a duck face.
I guess you could train it like that.
Yeah.
Duck unlock.
But at the demo, right? I mean, the first go didn't work, right? We
Yeah,
saw-
there you go.
That
It was a demo of
But that's
what the passcode fallback was.
Right, but I do think, like, hopefully they've erred. And again, I want some security expert to tell me this, but I think they'll err on the side of not recognizing and falling back to passcode than saying, yeah, we think that's right. Yeah, just unlock, right? I'd rather have that and have to type my passcode in a few times more. But yeah, Papine in Slack said, given their jokey statement that Spock's evil twin can unlock the phone, it does mean there's some kind of way. Yeah, I mean, the twin case is a problem. But they're saying it's, at least from their statistics, it's much better than Touch ID. They're saying Touch ID actually has a higher chance of someone else being able to come along and unlock your device.
Yeah, that was annoying. But, like, I don't want to know how imprecise it is.
Right, right.
Give
It's
me an
almost
actual
like,
hard number.
This thing
1
we've
in
been selling you,
50,000.
it's crap.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Microsoft did that a while
What are you
ago.
gonna
I'm
do?
trying to remember what commercial, and they were just like, oh, old Windows, it really sucks. You want this new Windows, which is basically their commercial. So yeah, I don't love that. You know, like, yeah, Touch ID, you thought it was good. Yeah, it's kind of crap.
So may I say a dumb story about Japanese television? So there's a show called Yokotate, and it's about Spear versus Shield, and they take companies and they face them against each other. And so it was identical twins against retina detection with a video camera, or like a full body detection. And they took identical twins and they had them walk through this gate one at a time, and they made a program out of that. But they were able to do from a distance identical twin recognition with enough of the irregularities between those twins to know that they were trying to be spoofed and to block it. So that makes me think that the 3D imaging, at least you have to be really, really, really good. So making a fingerprint is like a known long time thing. 3D printing a face, I still think there's, I believe, in the range of the numbers presented. Not necessarily that all of the execution will be lined up, but because of Japanese TV, which you can always trust TV more than, like, I don't know, the internet.
Yeah.
Sounds very Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, I almost didn't embarrass myself. I know obviously it wasn't working.
Yeah, I mean, the twin case is interesting because, like, I have a friend who has two identical twins, and they're still quite young, and they're not getting phones, right? They're like 6 years old or something, but they're ridiculously difficult to tell apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the case where people get older, yeah, even if you're twins, well, one got into a bar fight one night, and one guy walks a little differently, or for whatever reason, right? You start to diverge a little.
Sure. Although I
As
haven't
adults.
actually verified, but I know someone with twin infants was saying that Google Photos was doing a good job of identifying them separately, as correctly identifying two infant twins as separate people in the Google Photos albums and whatever. I haven't actually verified it's true, but so I guess it's feasible to figure that out. But that's using a data center's worth of machine learning and not an iPhone's worth of machine learning.
Yeah.
That's a catchphrase.
Yeah, and paraphrasing from Slack is something I was curious about during the event when we were watching Face Unlock. Like, hopefully that just all goes through the same APIs, so whatever works for Touch ID, like, developers don't need to redevelop anything. It just, like, the OS just says, like, yep, I got this unlocked, the auth was successful, boom, go ahead, rather than your app having to care about which way it got authenticated. Like, hopefully, all the Touch ID stuff just kind of just
Well,
works.
I don't know
face.
if, you know, that's, I don't know, I guess I'm hot taking on things that the security engineer probably thought about, but I'm like, you're in the app store and it pops up a prompt to you know, you're using an app, it prompts up a dialogue to pay for some, you know, price upgrade.
Oh yeah,
You know,
Wait.
It's like fingerprint unlock. That's different. That's an actual. Okay, yes, I'll press my thing and undo.
yeah.
Now it's just like face. You're looking at the phone. I'm assuming they've thought of this. I can
Yeah.
only assume they've thought of that.
Yeah,
In which
probably,
case, I'm not sure. You know, press the button and then do that, trigger something.
possibly. What else? TVs. I don't think any of us care too much about Apple TV. Like you might for home, but I mean for business use, I know some people are using them as, you know, displays, but that doesn't mean you need to rush out and get a 4K version. Like I think the announcement was like, oh, that's cool. It's going to look great. I don't have 4K TVs at home, so none of my TVs will look any different. So watches, I think. Again, maybe not a business case, but just like a personal thing. I think like this is the first version of the watch that became like a little interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to get one at this point,
Yeah,
but
I feel the same way.
yeah, it sort of became like, I could see this being interesting now. And like I always said, like, you know, when I go out for my morning run, I bring my phone to track my run, and I know you could do that with just the watch, but over my years and years and years of running, guess what? Twice I've had to call my wife and say, like, I hurt myself. Can you come pick me up? So there's no way in hell I'm going running without a way to make a call, right? Like without my phone. But now if you could make calls from the watch without the phone, that's a little bit more compelling. I didn't see, it was probably announced, I just wasn't paying attention. What is the price increase if you want a plan for your watch now, which that sounds crazy.
I don't think they know. They never said.
They didn't say it. So like I'm on AT&T, I have my phone, I go buy an Apple Watch, and I want service on that. Is it an extra $20 a month, $5 a month, $60? Like that. Yeah. That impacts the right. That impacts the decision as well. If it's there's a point.
I can't imagine it's going to be as cheap as you hope it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, then that also
what's
means
the second phone cost?
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, like we were talking about, like Project Fi is pretty affordable, and you can get a data-only SIM for was it $10 or $5 or something really inexpensive, and you can go roaming and traveling with that. So it would be kind of cool to see Apple follow a similar thing. Since I guess if anyone remembers in the iPad they had the Apple SIM. I think they still have that, and so it's sort of like built in, and you can choose any carrier, and it'll, like, I'm assuming that's like what the watch has. It's like this programmable SIM, right?
That's
so, yeah, I mean, it is interesting since it's already using or sharing your same phone number. It's going to be interesting how they price that out. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with Slack and different opinions of people figuring out if there'll be much of a charge or not. And Victor in Slack is saying, where I am right now in Eastern Europe, data-only SIM cards are pretty standard. I can buy 5 gig at every street vendor. Well, yeah, that's Europe. Europe has been so much further ahead on mobile for so much longer because they didn't have the investment in all the landlines and everything.
Southeast. I was in Thailand 2 years ago. In Cambodia, and like in Cambodia, and it was $2.
Yep.
For like a 5 gig SIM for the month. So like $2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's.
How fast can you slurp stuff down though?
It was pretty speedy. It was like 3G plus. So
yeah. Well, outside of the Earth, you know.
Sure.
So it comes down faster.
Yeah. I mean, we were also in Siem Reap, so that's Tourist Central, so had pretty good connectivity. But I was surprised, and even Thailand. I think Thailand was like super expensive. It was like $10.
Yeah. Yeah, the U.S. is definitely behind on some of those plans, but I think again for the watch, and maybe it is a business thing because your executives get reimbursed for this, or some level of employee has a watch and they get reimbursed for it. Yeah, I don't know. I think the cost is is going to be a big factor in how appealing this is to me, right?
Yeah. But I mean, if you look at sort of Project Fi models, it's $10 for a data-only SIM, but it's free to have it.
It's free to have it, and
Once
when
you
you use
have
it,
it,
it just hits
they
your
bill
main
you-
plan.
Right.
Right.
Bill you for the time. So Apple charges enough for the watch that they can include a year of service for free.
That shit ain't happening.
Well, but it depends a lot on like if it used to be that you would get a free phone, like Sprint advertises 2 free iPhones when you sign up. Maybe that's gonna be an iPhone and a watch and a year of service on the watch. Like there's a lot of money moving around in that space, and a lot of it's in the form of free things.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
This is Apple.
Well, and also,
We'll see.
It's not Apple.
they did say it's going to come with low introductory pricing, which means that whatever we're going to see, oh, look at those reviews, and I'm like, no, it's actually
Yeah, give it a year and it's going to double or whatever.
triple that.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I should say, like the idea is interesting. I like it, but I always feel the same way about like all of these things. Like I rented a car over the weekend. Like the Chevy had I kept saying there's a little cell strength meter and a Wi-Fi thing. I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, it's just another cell phone plan. You can turn on a Wi-Fi for your car, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's
Why?
another like $40 a month for your car's cell phone. To I don't spend that much on my car. I guess a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I certainly don't. Obviously, since I had to rent a car.
Yeah.
I can imagine kids with an iPad, Wi-Fi on the iPad, wanting to access
just
that. But I mean,
tether.
I don't know if it would warrant having a plan just for that.
No.
Yeah, I
Should
know. I mean, I don't.
I mean, you've got your
Anyway,
phone
it's-
already.
But like, it's just the whole like proliferation of little things that are sort of. Oh, here's another month.
Right.
Here's another.
Yep.
Mm.
I feel the same way about
Unrelated to all of this, like Disney's leaving Netflix to make their own streaming service. So here's another $20 a month you're paying. for
I was
your
just going to
Disney
say,
thing.
I feel the same way about streaming services. Like you can't have them all, otherwise you're back up to like
everyone's
people are
like-
saying cut the cord, get rid of cable.
Yeah.
But then if you
Spend money easier.
if you participated in every streaming service that you wanted, you'd be back up, right? If you had Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and who's the other, like Sling for regular channels and YouTube TV, and just HBO on its own is a
Right. I'm like, everyone's like,
Awesome.
I want, choose my own cable, pricing. And I'm like, okay, here you go. And I think that's not what I really wanted. Turns out, I liked it better when I had a big bundle of crap I didn't want.
Yeah,
Or-
kind of. I mean, I've been looking at my cable bill really recently, and it's like really is so expensive for the amount that I use it. Like, and now I have kids that are like going off to college, and that was always like the big impetus for saying like, let's make this easy. There's one remote control. You walk in the room, you turn it on, you flip channels. That's easy. Left to my own devices, I wouldn't have cable. I just don't. And I'm not saying like, oh, I don't watch TV. Like I do, but I don't care that much.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier, I think, about, during the, when they were talking about Apple TV and all these sports services. Like sports licensing is bananas, like with which channel gets which teams and which sports. And I'm a big soccer fan, and that's just so frustrating in the
Chasing
US
that around from like,
to try to follow because
it's an NBC this week,
there's
it's on Fox this week.
NBC Sports Network, and that's sometimes that carries English Premier League games. But if you follow a team, you can't always find that team on that channel. And I follow in the U.S. the National Women's Soccer League, fantastic games. Lifetime has the license for some of those games. And there's a streaming service called Go90 that has other games. So, like, you have to kind of go figure out where you can go watch this game, and it's so frustrating. So yeah, I'd like to see that story get a little bit more consolidated. And I'm not sure what Apple's story is there, right? Like the hope or dream or rumor was that like Apple was gonna, like they did with the music labels, they're gonna wrangle all these TV companies, and I think Apple would love to do that. It's just proven much harder than expected because the TV networks are just, wow, they're tough to deal with, and they're entrenched, and you know,
all these long-term licenses.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's not even. It's like, sure, that's great, but yeah, when our licensing term expires in 2025, we can maybe talk about it.
right. So Apple on the iPads and maybe the iPhones, they have the TV app now, and on the TV they have the TV app. It's confusing, but that just sort of like wrangles all this stuff together, so you have one place to look for it, but you still have to subscribe to all this stuff separately. So it's still frustrating as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I guess that wraps up the big announcements today.
It's weird that you're interested in the cellular watch, considering I don't need to be Dick Tracy. I can save myself $70.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, some of the other features were kind of interesting. Obviously, the more they increase the battery life, the wireless charging. As someone who hops in and out of the iPhone and Android worlds, like when the Android phone I had used that same charging, the Qi charging, fantastic.
And that's such a Telecaster moves type thing to say we're not even going to be competing with you with our own accessory to start with.
Thank God. I'm like so happy when I saw
to get it out there.
That the word open was the most refreshing thing that I saw in the keynote today. Like using this open standard Qi charging, and they even started off that segment by showing third-party chargers. Right? They didn't even start off by saying we have this mat for ourselves. We had one from Belkin and one from somebody else. Who was it? Mophie. Right. Then they finally
showed it for the watch as well when the watch already does surface charging. I mean,
yeah, but
you need a magnet. You need their magnet. True.
Right. So I thought that was kind of cool, and I guess the earpods, if you get a new case for them. So I thought that was kind of cool. You just lay everything down.
I thought they said on the watch that it had to be the 3rd gen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it needs to be the 3rd gen, right?
And
which
the
is
iPhone 8 and the new case for your earpods.
Right. So they didn't announce updated earpods though, just the case.
That was the one moment in the keynote I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want a pad that's that big. I've abandoned Qi charging. Like I did it for a while. It's just a pain in the ass because the pads are so small. And you had to line it up just right. Like if I had a great big pad and I could just dump my crap on it at night and it would charge. That really
we need to make sure that the pad Apple sells it's not a big pad with like 3 very specific styles.
Right. That would really suck.
I mean, we were experimenting here for a while with sort of like building in these Qi chargers into the tables.
That wasn't Qi, yeah.
Oh, that you're right. That was different. But we did have some Qi chargers here for a while.
Yeah, I've had a couple.
But I think, Apple.
When the Android phones had it, and then they decided.
Yeah, this is technology Android has abandoned already.
Yeah, it's
like
which is a shame because people have been saying, Apple, please give us wireless charging for years.
Well, I liked it. It was also back in the days before USB-C, so you're always screwing around with like plugging in the micro USB.
Yeah, honestly,
set it down.
I wish that was part of the announcement. I wish the iPhone X had USB-C because then, what's that? iPhone 10, whatever it's called.
I'll practice.
I don't care. I've seen it in print too many times.
Pony X.
So speaking to anyone who's a former Apple genius, were you a former Apple genius? Yes. Apparently the rule at one point was if a customer said OS X, you had to correct them. So
it's also not a laptop because you're not supposed to put on your other.
True. But I'm wondering if this will become a thing at the Apple Store now where they have to get corrected from iPhone X to iPhone 10. When you can get used to saying it. At least I can get used to saying it. But when you see it in print, it's an X. It's an X.
Especially when you've been saying macOS X for so long.
I didn't fall into that.
No, okay.
But yeah, iPhone 10. Sorry. Which means they'll maybe skip the 9, which they're free to do, or maybe there'll be an iPhone 9. I don't know. I would like to see that with USB-C because then I need just one charger, one cable for my modern Apple laptops and my phone. Makes it easier. Anyway, I don't know. Do they lose anything from Lightning? Would there be a downside to that? Licensing. Well, yeah. Downside for them. You don't think they could do the same thing with USB-C?
I don't think you can do waterproofing USB-C.
No.
I don't see that.
Samsung
Wouldn't see
has
why not.
something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of phones that are waterproof.
Yeah.
USB.
There's no,
No. I mean the cable end.
Yeah, you don't plug it in and take it in the shower though. You
You-
take the phone in by itself.
the amount of chewed Apple cables that most people have, the conditions in which people are charging stuff, like where they then unplug and then leave the cable. The other end of it is also waterproof.
Huh.
I don't know that there is a USB actual port that's waterproof.
Yeah, the Note.
Your
8.
phone is not waterproof.
No, it's not.
I've not heard of a USB-C phone that's waterproof.
The Note 8.
Yeah, the Note.
And the,
Yeah,
and the
the
S8
Note-
Plus
the-
is also
The
so the Pixel is
semi.
almost as waterproof as the iPhone. They just didn't send it through the ratings.
and
I tested
the
it so many times and got beer over it. whatever,
that's a good test.
and still.
Yeah. That's good.
I've been wrong before.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
The last
Me
few
too.
minutes,
I mean, this many minutes since.
Yeah. So I think we're in pretty good shape with High Sierra. None of the other announcements today really impact us. Impact all of us as MacAdmins. Like I said, I don't know if we have a final decision, but we have to discuss APFS. But I think we're going for it.
Yeah. So in the longer term, a lot of the stuff that APFS could possibly bring is very exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
We had most of our bugs fixed with APFS that we filed, so that was all good news. I don't think there's much else outstanding. Like we're just, in a panic over getting MDM out to the masses so we can not be affected by secure kernel extension loading. All right, anybody else?
Did anyone come across the article that was showing an exploit with Skell?
Patrick Wardle,
Mm.
was it? Yeah, he didn't announce details, but he said he had some way to.
There was a script I think you can access.
Oh, was
Run
there?
it yourself.
I didn't see that.
So open it up.
Report.
I wasn't sure if that was closed up yet or not, but
Probably.
it
not.
was about on the 5th of this month, I think.
Yeah.
we released
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
It's kind of concerning. So close to release date.
It's sort of an oddball feature, the whole
Yeah, that's what was
secure kernel extension
Mm.
loading in the first place. Like
Yeah.
it gets very, very low hanging fruit.
Like I think
Kernel
having-
extensions already have to be signed.
Mm.
Like I don't know exactly what this was.
I think this was we want people to get out of the kernel extension.
We want people to get out of.
And here's a really, really terrible, annoying way to do it.
Well, I mean, I think the little snitch bug scared Apple quite a bit, but little snitch isn't that widely deployed that I would want to force this feature out because of that, right? But
Yeah,
you know,
I
sure.
mean, sure. Like from a security perspective, I enjoy the idea of whitelisting specifically
Yes.
the kernel extensions that you can install, even beyond just them being, code signed and blah blah blah. But whatever, that's
But the UI for it is still kind of terrible.
not so bad.
I think it's going
Here's
to
a
leave.
dialog box, and you have to then open up another thing within half an hour, and click on another thing, which is kind of weird.
Or you could run text load.
Oh, to trigger it in. I know, yeah, but it's
The weirdness as well is like the fact that so one of the purported so if you speak to enough Apple SEs, you get enough answers, right? It's kind of like they're eventually going to make Macbeth. The way that you can deploy a kernel extension now, if it's signed, it gets on the machine. If there's no visible GUI to it, it's like a launch daemon that it's not even kind of supposed to at a certain point. You're supposed to interact with things that can only happen at the kernel. Supposedly that was one of the things that's like, no, let's push it up into user space we want to trigger something when it can go on somewhat silently or invisibly for people who are concerned about regular users that won't know that there's a kernel extension running on their machine whatsoever. So I get that part. I get that concern almost. I don't get how that affects features that ship in an OS. But it's also kind of like, hey, security team, what should we ship in the next OS? What do you think we're ready to do or we can do in this next sprint of getting a feature in there? It's like, this looks like it's really not a great thing that we continue to have drivers that kernel panic machines. Like VMware is not the problem, it's gosh darn VirtualBox. Like there was, the reason why Vagrant is a tool that people paid a lot of money for was VirtualBox was so bad. So bad. So it added a lot of stability to get that out of there as well. I just don't know how someone can say, oh yes, it's because we don't, three-letter organizations don't want things to just fall on the machine without at least, even if it's signed. And it's like, but who's signing it? I guess there's just like no code review process for kernel extensions as well. That things can just break, or there's so much backwards incompatible moves that happen in the kernel. Like it's the privatest of APIs.
Well, I mean,
Or they just move their stuff around and break you and break their customer base. And like, meh.
sure, well, there's public APIs on how to do correctly do kernel development, and if you're not using those in your chip breaks, then it's your downfall. I understand that Apple gets a lot of blowback from user support on because of people doing bad kernel development practices. That makes sense. And I can definitely see for longer term reasons why they want people to be out of the kernel for lots of reasons.
Yeah, that kind of.
And again, I agree with that in the long term. That's fine. Sure, give us hooks to do these things in user land. That's great. I'm happy with all. Like I guess I agree with the end goal, but the path there is terrible.
It would also have been nice to have some more time. Like they could have said much earlier, like, hey, this is our plan.
Sure, I don't know. At the end of 10.12, say, guess what? And then 10.13, we're going to do this thing where we're going to start prompting users, or we're going to do something crazy. We're going to do something not crazy. We're going to do something dramatic with kernel extensions. You should work with us to get the stuff you need out of the kernel.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, good. We'll work on that. And they drive that at you for throughout the year, and then 10.13 drops. At least we're expecting it's coming.
We might as well just assume that in 10.14 kernel extensions are dead. So we should start working with Apple now to figure out what APIs we need in the kernel and how to do them without writing a kernel extension. So yeah, to refer to the Patrick Wardle article, he doesn't release any details. He just says it can be done. I can't release details.
Yeah, I'm mistaken. I thought I saw a GitHub link somewhere, but it's not in that article.
Well, I presume he has reported this to Apple, and Apple is fixing it.
Yeah.
So don't rely on that being a thing.
No.
Cool. Questions, announcements, thoughts. We always talk about conferences. Maxis Admin's coming up in like 2 weeks, so either you know about it and or you're attending, or you probably don't care at this point. That's a really nice conference in Sweden. And then we have MacTech. I'm still talking to people about speaking, so if you want to be involved this year, please talk to me. That would be really nice. Getting ramped up on that. Looking to have a real blow off the doors kind of year. Other events that I'm not thinking about. I know Mac DevOps just announced their dates for 2018. Was it June 7th and 8th, if I remember? So that sounds cool. That was I got to go to that for my first time this year. It's a really good event. Jamf Nation, that's right. I always forget that one because I don't attend it, but I was just talking with Charles Edge the other day, who said he wound up helping plan a bunch of that, and he now has a lot more respect for people that plan conferences because it is a ton of work. So yeah, Jamf Nation is coming up. I assume that's in Minneapolis, which is their headquarters. Yes. some Jamf people help me out because
Yes.
I don't know the
Yes.
products. So I guess that's sandwiched in between Max Sysadmin, Jamf Nation, MacTech.
DevOps.
Yeah, 2018 though.
Oh, right.
2018.
Sorry.
MacAdmin.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
also.
yeah.
Do they announce
February.
dates?
I
It's-
don't think so.
It's been the first weekend-ish in February the last few years. I assume they'll continue that. I'd like to get over to that at some point. Clay, you've been there. It's spoken, right? It was a good event, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So it's the best part for me, I think, was interacting with a whole or an almost entirely different circle of mechanisms.
Yeah.
You know, where if you go to the U.S. conferences, it's a lot of the same group.
Yep.
When you go there, it's like the Venn diagram kind of shifts a little bit. You get a little slightly different group of the European contingent, which is nice.
Okay.
Well, I have a question to open up to the room if anyone's inclined.
Yes.
I'm, as some of you know, I've traveled here from Australia to visit. I'm going to be aiming to go to a non-Australian Mac conference next year in my increased endeavor to try to find work outside of Australia and integrate, just to learn about who's out there and what everyone does, what the environment's like outside of Australia. Now I'm thinking about whether I should go to PSU or Mac Sysadmin if there was,
well,
they both have their strengths
Max
and weaknesses.
Sysadmin
and
is
whatnot.
based in Sweden. So
Oh, for sure.
Right. So
Yeah,
which is
I'm
great.
Still
anywhere
outside,
outside of
still
Australia.
outside Australia.
Yeah, technically.
Okay. I was thinking U.S. It is technically outside
Yeah,
Australia.
that's what we usually think. But,
So, if anyone's been to both or one or the other.
I've been to both. I like them both for very different reasons.
Sure.
But if I had to pick one of those, I'd say Penn State, only because I missed it this year for the first time in a number of years. But the previous year, I think they were capping out around 600. And I assume they had about 600 people again this year. So it's about 3 times larger than Max Sysadmin. So
Right.
you're going to be exposed to a lot more people.
Yeah.
I say this all the time, the Apple and Mac admin community is the best in the world. People are friendly. They're friendly no matter which conference you go to, but Penn State is just great. You meet a big cross-section of people, and Penn State, their first year, I think, was Penn State only, and then they started off education only, and they continue to kind of have this education lean to it, but now that they've grown so much, you have the education people, you have people from all different segments.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick, I love Max Sysadmin. Absolutely nothing against with the people that run Max Sysadmin.
Of
I
course.
love it. I'm speaking there again this year, but it depends.
Sure.
If you're looking to get work in Europe, right? Like that's a good conference, and I don't want to say it's a very regional conference, but compared to the U.S., right? Like you get a real high concentration of people from the Nordic countries and that area.
Right.
The UK because it's relatively close. But Penn State, super fun.
Okay, and you find a
Ton of
large
people.
cross-section of people from across North America at the Penn State conference, or is it mainly people from the East
Definitely people from all over, but again, the U.S. is big enough that, of course, people on the East Coast, like me, I just go, I'm going to hop in a car and go drive down there. It's just, you're making it easier. Just like MacTech conference, we run it in L.A.
Right.
It leans towards people from the West Coast because it's easy. It's a short plane flight or a car ride or whatever. So, let's see. Some notes in Slack.
I'm sorry?
Is there a good conference in Australia?
Yes, there is. It's
X-World,
X-World.
right? Yeah.
Yes, it's in Sydney in the middle of the year.
Discontinue.
Anyone who wants to come and talk, they always are open.
I've spoken to some people about speaking at that.
Yeah, and they will fly you over and do their best.
Yeah.
What?
We should.
You're going
Let's
next
go.
I was hoping to.
We had Joel Rennick come out.
This year, but it was right before I was on vacation.
Yeah.
Next year, I'll plan ahead.
I've spoken to someone
Make a
about
junket out of it.
X-World
important
ages
work.
ago. So,
Yeah.
So some notes from Slack that say this year Penn State was 25%
Oh,
enterprise.
that's good to know.
So and it keeps growing. So yeah, and I've definitely noticed that both Penn State and Mac sysadmin tend to get Apple employees showing up there. So sometimes they present. They can't make public record of that, right? Like they don't record it and they don't put it on the schedule and blah blah blah. But
Every year.
Pretty much every year. So you get these Apple employees there, so that's another nice little bonus.
That is nice.
So and there are always good evening events, so you get to meet a bunch of people,
Networking and whatnot. Okay.
Well, according to
Good
this
advice.
convinceyourmanager.docx, last year over 1,200 people attended JNUC 2016. The location isn't chosen as a getaway for attendees. Minneapolis is the host city. But speaking of that,
Wow.
this is their .docx.
Yes, I get
that
it.
you can download from their website. Hello, manager.
Wow.
This is from Jam?
Yeah.
this is
Okay,
on Jam's
Not
website. If you go right there at the bottom. But one thing, speaking of Apple employees speaking, there may have been people who were involved in the project management of the MDM team at JNUC.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a difference from maybe other conferences. But
Yeah, I've definitely considered going to JNUC as well. It's just, I work for an MSP. We're a gold partner with Jamf in Australia, and we use it heavily. Great relationship with them, but because it is so focused around that product, I was more considering things like PSU or MaxSysAdmin.
Yeah.
But, JNUC certainly is like a fun event to go to. A lot of people I know have described the weeks-long hangovers they get.
or the 5Ks.
In Minneapolis.
Morning 5K.
Okay.
It's a lovely city.
Sure.
Just putting it out there. It's a very nice, small American city.
They have an amazing amount of mass transit for something that gets just dumped on
Yeah.
when it comes to snow.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. It reminded me of Montreal, like where taxi drivers just don't care what the speed limit is. Like slipping and sliding around is like normal. It's like that as well.
Yeah, and you probably see in Slack that Thomas is recommending
Definitely.
MacAduck if you can't choose, which we already mentioned, and that's also outside Australia.
Part of the Commonwealth, much easier to get to, right?
But I think, I talk about this a lot as someone who runs a conference. This is going to be our 8th year running MacTech. And, 8 years ago, the conference scene for MacAdmins was really different, right? There was pretty much Macworld, which was its own sort of thing. Macworld was great. I spoke there a lot. And then right around the same time, Penn State and MacTech started about the same year, I guess. And that's it. There were really kind of those three. Penn State was different because it was on the East Coast. That's one thing that made it different. Again, easier for us on the East Coast to attend. And now you're seeing more and more conferences, which is, I love it. It's really nice. Like MacAduck and Mac DevOps are much newer and much smaller, which gives you much more access to everyone at the conference. There's definitely a different feel. Like a conference, any of these gatherings, like I think Macworld hit that point where it got to be to a certain point and they didn't, intentionally or unintentionally, like they didn't limit the attendance. Like some conferences, like Mac Sysadmin, he cuts it off at I think he says he cuts it off at 200, and then there's always magically an extra 20 tickets available, right? So like around 220 people. We found with MacTech, like we never really want to get much bigger than, we usually hit 300, 350 people. We never really want to go more than 450, because that's that tipping point where all of a sudden you can't meet everybody and there are too many people to get around to everybody. And then if you're like Penn State, I've noticed they added a track because they have so many people, right? They have it in the same space. So how do you accommodate more people? Now they have 5 tracks right? I think it's 5, right? So there's 5 concurrent sessions and that can sometimes leave you like, oh, I want to go to 2 things at
Yeah.
once or 3 things at once, and
Mm.
yeah, they're great. They put up all the videos. It's not always the same.
No.
So like, there is a tipping point.
Yeah.
So to me, that makes like, I haven't been to MacAduck, but what'd you say MacAduck was? 100 people, maybe less.
That's bigger
No.
than that.
Or was it more than that? Because I know
200.
Mac DevOps, you know, it's-
it was enough to mostly fill 2 theaters.
Okay.
Like movie theaters.
right, so that's maybe 200
Yeah.
ish.
It's pretty good.
Mac DevOps was even smaller than that. I think I
Really?
counted 50, 60
Mm.
people,
Mm.
which
I think
again,
they creeped over a little bit, 100 this year, or 80 this year.
Maybe it was
The
80,
first
but it
year
was-
it was really small.
It was tiny
Yeah.
the first year. It was only 1 day the first year too.
yes,
One
it was
day.
only, now it's up to
Mm.
2 days, but that was super intimate. And like,
Mm.
you knew everybody in that room, and then you went to lunch and you knew everybody who was there. So I'm not saying small is bad. I'm kind of saying
No,
the opposite. It's like
absolutely.
really refreshing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's certainly a threshold that you can meet when it comes to the density of people there, where it affects the quality or the experience at least. It just affects it regardless, for good or bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Got a question about MacTech.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up.
Does
on
the
that.
MacTech magazine still exist?
It does.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that
Okay.
after
All right.
this, but yes, it does.
Okay.
All right. Questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much, everybody. See you next month.